Human.
Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
It is indeed that time again. Don't forget, Lavelle will probably join approximately 5:30 tonight. You had a heck of a tease. You want to work up to the Twins part, or you want to get right to it?
I think we got to get right to it. We did it at Shields, remember, a couple of days ago. No, but we talked about, I think it was Bob Nightingale, right? The dad, the senior, that had reported that the Twins were looking around or talking, reading some things, deciding, what do we do with these pitchers? What do we do with Byron Buxton? I think that was even a different report. Kenny Rosenthal steps in. We led the top 5 at 5 on Tuesday with that, if you recall, at Shields.
Correct.
Here's Kenny Rosenthal from The Athletic. I'm reading this with one of my 2 subscriptions, not sure which one. The Twins do not anticipate moving center fielder Byron Buxton or right-handers Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez, according to league sources briefed on their plans. Minnesota's goal is to keep those players, build around them, and compete in 2026.
So who is saying this?
Ken Rosenthal.
Oh, so this is an update because Kenny was the guy a couple days ago I just quoted, started the show with it. I think it was Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah, that they didn't know what they were doing.
They didn't know that not only
somebody read that and called him.
They got inspired.
Said, not only do we know what we're doing,
Rosenthal inspired him.
Apparently.
Or maybe he was a little old on the information. Who knows? Read that wording again on the Buxton part.
The Twins do not anticipate moving center fielder Byron Buxton or right-handers Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez, according to league sources briefed on their plans.
Okay.
Minnesota's goal is to keep those players, build around them, and compete in 2026.
Okay. That's very carefully worded.
Is that some Spielman-ese?
A little bit. Anticipated, intend keep them. They have no equity. I'm sorry. I mean,
I like this sentence, by the way. Finances presumably remain an issue, but trades of players such as Ryan and Buxton would further alienate the fan base. Well, yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. Can it be further alienated?
It'd be hard to at this point.
But I interrupted. Go ahead.
No, it's obvious that it's hard to believe them. Is it possible that is their intent and that they're going to stick with it? Yeah. But if people are skeptical or dubious, they have only themselves to blame because they have been so secretive and non-communicative on articulating whatever their vision is, right? Is it that hard to speak out loud without being asked by a reporter or responding when a reporter said to say, guys, here's where we are. You never say never in this business. You never know exactly what's going to be put in front of you. But hear me now. Our intention, our desire is to go forward with several of the players, the important players here, as cornerstone players on a team and build around them. That's not that difficult to do. And that you can still leave yourself the out that, well, we didn't intend to, but then somebody came along with a big trade. So I have no sympathy for them. If they're bothered by the fact, if that's why they're responding now to the Rosenthal report that we led the show with, I think, on Thursday, they have only themselves to blame because guess what? Reporters do. They fill in the vacuum. When there's void there, they have more reason to say, well, we're trying to figure out what exactly is going on with the team. We'll talk to Lavelle about that in more depth.
Your Minnesota Timberwolves last night completed the always difficult New Orleans two-step. You always talked about the Texas two-step or...
You survived Bourbon Street for 3 straight nights.
Not easy.
No.
Not easy. But they did it last night. I do remember the Indiana two-step used to be big. Like, if you wanted to win the Big Ten back in the day. You had to handle the Hoosiers, and you had to handle the Boilermakers. Well, step 1 complete for Nico.
Mission accomplished.
He's got to deal with the Boilers next week at Mackey.
Well, that's
a little tougher, I think.
And that might cement some things. He might actually get a contract extension if he pulls that off.
But the New Orleans two-step, always difficult. So difficult that, in fact, I saw this tweet today, and this one is new, even, I think, for a guy who always defends people not going to games because it's never been easier to not go. And I think it's true. I'm going with it. The Pelicans and SeatGeek are providing basically free codes to people to just come to the games in New Orleans because nobody's coming. And we're talking lower level, club level.
Not good.
They're back there right now in the old Timberwolves days where if you joined Lifetime Fitness, you got season tickets in the lower level, which is a real thing. I saw the stack by someone very close to me that joined Lifetime and then became, whether she wanted to or not, a Wolves season ticket holder. But you know what? You don't just walk in there and get victories. But the Wolves got 2. It was 149-142 the other night in overtime, and last night they outlast the Pels 125-116. I think it was a 15-0 run in the fourth quarter, where we talk about it on Enough Said tonight. It was such a funny side-by-side. The whole team is hooting and hollering and laughing it up and having a great time. Ant's throwing alley-oops to McDaniels. Nas is hitting threes. They're playing loose and fast and free. And Chris Finch looks like he wants to be anywhere but the Smoothie King Center. He just looks like, we got to get the hell out of here. Can I get home? And can we go play somebody else? Yeah. It was such a funny, because they didn't play very well. They were down pretty much the whole game again.
Correct.
And then did the thing that they do, which is start to play for 10 minutes and ran away from a team that has no business hanging with them, even though they did compete hard for 2 games. It was just hysterical to me.
Who are we playing coming up? Are we getting into the meat of
Tomorrow is the Clippers. Monday is the Suns, who are not bad. Clippers are
a mess.
Suns are right on our heels, basically, in the 7 spot. At least they were within the last day or 2.
They're playing like they have a purpose, which is very different than the Suns of the last couple of years.
And then we're going to get into, though, the part of the schedule where we have like our fill-in games because we didn't make the Cup. We're never going to make the Cup, ever.
I don't think we're ever going to win it.
It's just my dream.
Yeah.
You've got Golden State a week from Friday on the road, but Sacramento, Memphis. I mean, not a ton until...
Is it Christmas? Do we have Denver again, or are we
Christmas is Denver. 2 days before that, it's the Knicks.
Okay.
A couple days before that, it's the Bucks, and Giannis probably won't play.
Because I think to this point we've had one of either the second or third eeasiest schedule.
That makes sense.
Which probably makes some sense. And again, that doesn't mean everything, but they are adventuresome, man, in terms of some of the silly turnovers and even Randall sometimes he just starts dribbling high, and he's like, there's people behind you and in front of you.
I know. You can just tell when he's not ready to go.
Yeah, so it's very strange. But
he's a good barometer for how the team's going to go.
He can be.
Jaden's kind of one, too, although he was great again yesterday. He had a stretch of shots where he missed.
His finish at the basket, his resounding dunk? That was a nice play.
Absolutely. He said he felt like Giannis.
DiVincenzo, I think, according to a lot of the analytics, is probably playing his best ball since he's gotten here.
Good defense, too.
Is important because I didn't think we saw the DiVincenzo that I saw in New York last year. So that would be a major boost to the club, even though he is not a point guard.
Minnesota Wild last night played their worst game in a few weeks and lost
what happened?
A terrible Calgary team in the Saddle Dome 4-1. And it's the first time in a while that we've kind of gotten dominated in a regulation game like that. It was tied at 1 briefly, and then 3 third-party goals. Well, the Flames knocked us off, unfortunately. And everybody said after we didn't have the usual zip and pop that we've had.
Who was in the net for us?
It was Gus Bus.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
That's the first sign. The first time one of them struggles, then it's goalie controversy. May need to go with the kid more often. He might need to be the main guy. Now, I'm not saying we're there yet. But that's all it takes, right? That's how this is going to play out. If suddenly Gus Bus is in a little bit of a slump, we go, got to go with the kid.
Well, and here's the next litmus test. Calgary is no longer the worst team points-wise in the Western Conference and in the National Hockey League. The next opponent, the Vancouver Canucks, now is, because Calgary got 2 points over us. Right. They have 24 points. The Canucks, who we play... When is that? As I turn my neck, which I can't do because I'm old.
Your neck's in trouble, I heard.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
For no reason.
Just out of nowhere. It's old age.
I know, it's over.
It's
over. It was a great run.
You need to go to one of those gyms that are out there now that all they do, they help you stretch.
The stretch lab?
The stretch lab.
Yeah.
Everybody raves about that stuff.
I'm going to stick with Lifetime for a while longer. They'll stretch you too.
Okay.
They'll stretch you too. Okay. But it's tomorrow night, 9 o'clock tip, the Vancouver Canucks, who have 23 points. They are also no good. It's a road game. That's why it's so late. But it was not a great effort last night as I watched it after the Wolves.
Unbelievable. Sorry.
You got to stay current.
It's amazing.
That's pretty much all I got. It's time to straddle anyway.
Let's do it. And then Lavelle at 5:30 tonight. Eventually, we'll take some questions as well from the not studio audience, but the audience at large. Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line is 64686. with food. Twins get booed. Wild come unglued. Vikes just rude. Wolves in 5. It's one of my new favorite texters. 651 guy, also known as Gaardsy's Conscience.
I could use one.
JG knows entire Wolves schedule through Christmas, doesn't know the Wild through the weekend. Sad. Maybe that's fallness.
Probably could be.
It could be fallness. There's no question about that.
I actually had the Wolves schedule pulled up.
Oh.
So I don't know it off the top of my head. But I do know more games for sure. I knew tomorrow night against the Clippers.
Lavelle will join at the bottom of the hour. We'll get his reaction to the media report from, who was it, Kenny Rosenthal?
Yes.
That we intend to keep everybody. Does that mean anything? Well, it doesn't mean that much to me, but they tried it. Leading the top 5 at 5 with baseball in November. Hashtag deep sigh. That's also, Gaardsy's Conscience has sent like 10 of them in the last 20 minutes. That has to be
fallness then. It's the only guy that has time to text that much.
Well, yeah, because he produces the shortest pre- and post-game show in the history of local broadcasting. It's amazing. The only time he wants the post-game show to go long is when it gets in the way of us starting our show. That's right. The only time. So, no, I'll keep going. I've got plenty. Otherwise, he's in and out in like 6 minutes. I don't understand that. It can't be sponsorship issue. I got to believe there's plenty of sponsors out there, aren't there? Don't you think?
In the state of hockey?
Yes.
There better be.
I'm just saying. I'm just wondering about that. What's the other item I wanted to get to here in this housekeeping segment? Hold on a second. Let me find it. I've got to scroll down, but I will find it here somewhere. Oh, well, this was not the one I intended, but it's worth a mention at the risk of, again, alienating a few of our listeners. A congressman from Honduras was just sentenced today in federal court to 22 years in prison for the same drug trafficking operation as the guy Trump just pardoned, Juan Orlando Hernandez. I thought the trafficking conspiracy was a Biden hoax. And somebody said, well, if this particular congressman from Honduras who was just sentenced today, if he can just produce a single, in writing, a single quote somewhere along the line positive about Donald J. Trump, he'll get out his get out of jail free card too, won't he? Realistically,
by Monday.
You know, fairness and savagery. I didn't get to this subject with Lugar yesterday, and I do know what his response would have been if I had, because we talked about it off air. And he said, these are disturbing, no question about that, because they're coming fast and furious. And usually what presidents tend to do is they do it on the way out the door.
For sure.
He's doing it all along. He's saying, cats and dogs living together, I don't care.
Bring them as they come.
Yep. But he did remind me, and there's some truth to this, presidents forever have overused their pardoning power. And as I said, other presidents haven't gotten as much heat because they've tended to do it at the very end where, well, they're gone now. What are we going to do about it? But this is not the first president to abuse the power. He may be on his own plateau. He may have raised it to another level, especially with, on the one hand, we want to gun down the individual drug runners, but then we want to let the people responsible at the top end for some of these drug operations that are allegedly killing billions and billions of Americans. That's another callback quote. We'll get them out of jail because they're not really that. They're misunderstood. So that does seem to be a contradiction. But he did say, and he's right, you can go down the list. Frankly, there are way, way too many, unfortunately. Where was the other one I wanted to get to? Oh, well, can you let's do a mini ode to a dead guy, come to think of it, because I want to get to this before the week is over. I probably should have gotten to it sooner. Are you familiar? Did you find it? Is it gone?
No, it can't be gone.
Oh, no. I thought it was on button bar A, or page 1. That's where it has been.
There it is.
You found it?
And now,
Still be me.
it's
One of the best
time
ones.
for Ode to a Dead Guy.
And I think it has stood the test of time. Are you familiar? You're probably not. There's no reason you would be familiar with a man named Randy Bachman. Once upon a time, there was a pop group called Bachman Turner Overdrive. And they had their moment. Well, he sent out earlier this week a salute in the wake of the news that Steve Cropper had passed away. And I'll quote Bachman because he does as good a job of oding him as anybody. And if you're interested in popular music and go back more than 15 minutes, it's a big name. It's an important name. Bachman says or writes, Cropper, or the Colonel, was a legendary guitarist, songwriter, and producer. Most will remember him as the guitarist of the Stax Records house band Booker T and the MGs, who backed Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett, Sam and Dave, Carla Thomas, Rufus Thomas, and Johnny Taylor. I was fortunate to have known him. I met Steve many years ago, and he asked me for a guitar lesson. He said, I'll do you a favor back. He then recorded the Staple Singers doing Wednesday in Your Garden, a song I wrote, which was on the 1969 Guess Who album, Wheatfield Soul. Several years ago, I saw Mavis Staples and went to see her backstage. She sang the whole song to me. It was amazing. She remembered every word. Lots of love to his friends and family. Music lives forever. Other worlds to play in. He is, again, you may not remember the name, but there's an excellent chance that if you're interested in R&B music, some soul music, some that defy categorization, you heard him on the guitar without necessarily knowing that it was him. There's a famous blues song called Loan Me a Dime, and there's a great version in which Boz Scaggs is the vocalist. A live version in which at the end of the song, he basically, I think it was the song ends, there's applause, and Boz says, Steve Cropper, just to give him his proper due. So a big name, even if you don't necessarily recognize it, because his musical contributions, he's the classic session musician. And we've talked about this historically over the years with a lot of our guests, a lot of our musical guests, that they're really they're the glue, because once upon a time, and I don't think this is true today, these various studios, they kind of had house musicians, house bands, whether it was Motown or Stax Records, whatever the case may be. And these individuals were artists. They were craftsmen. Even if no one knew their names, they knew their damn music. And Cropper definitely applies to that particular description for sure. Anybody else has a Steve Cropper moment they want to text me? Let me know. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is 64686. That's Steve, I should say 64686. We'll come back with Lavelle Neal III. You might have questions.
On location today, Lavelle is.
Is that right?
Maturi Pavilion for the
Maturi Pavilion?
The volleyball NCAA championships. Yeah, Gopher's playing in a little bit. He's courtside at the PAV, as they call it right now.
Oh,
so
I
it
can't
could be
wait.
some good Lavelle bingo.
You think are we going to get some good insight into the volleyball tonight? I don't know if I have it in me to talk a lot of volleyball, but I can talk some.
Well, Lavelle, as we know, could answer any volleyball question that you throw his way.
Very true. We are indeed back, and Lavelle is back with us. After all, it's 5:30 on a Friday, and that's when the bat signal goes out to Lavelle Neal III. And it's not exactly like where in the world is Lou Nanny. I mean, the venues from which he might be, that Lavelle might be speaking to us, are not generally that exotic, although he has talked with us from China shortly before he left all of his underwear in his hotel room. More on that later. In today's case, my sources say, Lavelle, that you are inside the Mother Maturi Pavilion. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm watching St. Thomas in its first ever Division I volleyball tournament game take on Iowa State. So far it's tied up at one set apiece, but the Cyclones just won the second set 25-13. And I believe it was like 8-3 or 9-3 when the Tommy just took a timeout in the third set. So after getting off to a good start, the higher seeded Cyclones are starting to flex their muscles or their wings, whatever you want to call them.
By the way, for the record, musically speaking, I think I've sensed you've always had very eclectic tastes. Were you ever a big Blues Brothers guy? I bring that up because we were owing the late, great Steve Cropper, the guitarist, session guitarist extraordinaire, who was one of the Blues Brothers, has passed away, and I'd forgotten to get to that story earlier in the week. Were you much of a Blues Brothers guy, or were you familiar with the name Steve Cropper?
I was familiar with the Blues Brothers, and I enjoyed their music. I love the peppy, entertainment-driven music that they put out. And Steve Cropper doesn't ring a bell, but I do remember the name Blues Brothers, the band, not just the movie, the band.
Massive. I'm getting a lot of good background. In fact, morning show guy Hockey just sent me a great story that we may be able to get to later as well, regarding another great contribution to a brilliant ballad soul classic as well. I don't know if I have any more volleyball questions in me, but is there anything else you'd like, any other insight you'd like to bring, or any color to the occasion you'd like to bring before we get in on some other stories?
It's a little interesting because Iowa State brought their band, they brought the cheerleaders. They have actually a cheering section. Gaardsy would be grossed out to know that they actually busted out a 6-7 chant during the second set, which grinded my gears a little bit. But they travel well. Iowa State fans are definitely traveling well for this event. It's very loud. I was back to my old high school reporting days in Kansas City because I'm sitting right on the side of the court, and I got fans sitting right behind me screaming, and it's definitely a noisy event. And I've been told that wait till the Gophers play. It's going to be even more people here. It's going to be even louder. So I guess the pavilion can get pretty loud, get rocking when there's good volleyball to be played.
All right, I'll take your word for it on that. You were going to say, Gaardsy?
Well, yeah, that's an unbelievable volleyball environment in there. But why don't you turn around and ask the Cyclone fans how they're feeling about their football coach maybe going to Penn State?
How about that? Is that official yet?
I don't think it's official, but it sounds like it's happening.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised that the St. Thomas fan base hasn't taken that one up because the St. Thomas fans, they can stir it up a little bit. I covered the first hockey game at the new arena, and the Providence came out, and their nickname were the Friars, and the Friars are coming out to warm up, and all of a sudden here's the St. Thomas cheering section starting the F the Friars chant, and I'm like, I thought this was a nice, upstanding
you should know better than that.
Catholic institution, and someone turned to me and said, Lavelle, most of these kids are from a diner.
Well, here's what's weird to me,
wow.
And now that you mention it, it kind of does reinforce a view I have that I sense that over this, I guess you could say, school year, going back to September, moving forward, you've covered much more St. Thomas stuff than University of Minnesota stuff. What's the deal? I mean, is Johnny Athletic in your ear all the time, or what?
No, it's just that we feel like you only have one first year, and this is St. Thomas's first year as a full-fledged Division I, school that's eligible for postseason competition.
Little engine that could kind of a thing, I guess, is what you're saying. That's a little
yeah. So it's not going to happen again. I mean, but going forward, we have to pay attention that they're a Division I school and they need to be treated, maybe I don't know on an equal footing as the University of Minnesota, but you do have to recognize the fact that there's another Division I program in this state.
Okay.
And so, since we did the first games in the hockey arena, the first game in the basketball gymnasium.
Yeah,
now the first game was a postseason participant in the volleyball. So we'll be done. We'll be all out of first here pretty
Thank
soon.
God.
So.
Thank God is all I can say.
My sources say the coverage is going to get thicker, and that's all I can say about it.
Well, yeah, because muckety mucks. There's a what's the outsized influence, I would say, among the beautiful people and the influencers that are going to have you covering more St. Thomas stuff than you should. That's my opinion.
Well, Royce and I actually had a conversation about just creating a St. Paul beat where someone like covers St. Thomas and maybe during the summer just takes over the Saints and gets more Saint stuff in the
There
paper.
you go.
So, but I don't know if we're going to have the people power to pull that one off.
No, I think that's unless Royce decides that's his next deal. Then that's how he closes. He basically eventually retires at age 105 after becoming the St. Paul correspondent,
the Saints beat writer,
the Saints beat writer.
And he's still a ball guy.
Exactly it. It actually makes some sense.
That would check the boxes out too. But Royce likes to get out on the road too. So I think he likes covering the entire state of Minnesota, finding great stories about the people, the sports figures that make up the state.
If Lavelle's looking for peace and quiet, he'll have to wait until Target Field opens up next spring. Writes Clayton from.
I didn't say anything about seeking peace and quiet. I'm just saying my guy get used to the
noise,
the loud environment. When you're pampered and spoiled and you sit in press boxes all the time, you're kind of away from all the madness. This takes me back to the old days of journalism when you're trying to cover a high school basketball game, everybody's screaming and you've got the TRS-80 computer hoping that the telephone hookup cables are working so you can get your story in on time. Back to those type of days almost.
Do you take the Twins at their word, or at least as spoken through a nationally respected baseball writer who must have heard him say just a couple of days ago, internally, the Twins don't even seem to know what their plan is. And now the Twins are saying, we know exactly what our plan is. And our plan includes keeping both of our best starting pitchers and keeping Byron Buxton. Is there any reason to believe them?
Wait a minute. There's a report that's suggesting that second half that they know they're going to keep those guys? I hadn't seen that one.
Kenny Rosenthal.
Oh, Rosenthal said that?
Yes.
They're planning on it.
Planning on it. Anticipating is the term.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that means they can anticipate it until they get their socks knocked out by some offers.
Correct.
I'll believe it when I see it. I just think that I think a lot of this is ownership driven. That maybe they're still making decisions. They didn't know what their payroll was the day they hired Derek Shelton to be the manager. They weren't sure of that. They still don't know what who the new investors are. They were supposed to. The latest rumor was I was told that hopefully. They said the first week of December. So I texted them my person on Tuesday and said, it's the first week of December. And then the guy said, yeah, you're right. Maybe hopefully by the winter meetings, which are next week in Orlando.
Correct.
So I'm done. I'm just done trying to, browbeat them over some information that everybody would like to have.
Well, let me ask you this question. I quoted Kevin Kernan today on the Enough Said program, which will run tonight on Fox 9 Plus, 7:30. And I think on 9 we're between 10:30 and 11 tonight after the news. And Kernan led his Ball 9, basically hot stove league winter meetings column saying the Twins should trade everybody. That there's no point in even pretending any longer. If they really want to keep sort of playing the half-assed game, don't play it half. Go all the way with it and trade both of the pitchers and trade Buxton to Atlanta. Let him have some fun down there in an area he knows well. Do you think there's any logic to that? That as painful as it is for Twins fans to realize how then I guess you could say irrelevant this franchise would be the next 3 or 4 years. That let's stop fooling ourselves. Go ahead and start over. Get rid of everybody.
Well, what Kevin is suggesting is something that franchises have found hard to do. Just totally gut a roster and start from scratch and go scorched earth. Most teams don't do that. They soften a few pieces and try to do it on the fly and try to win and develop at the same time, which is very hard to do. That's just a move that teams don't do, except in one instance. I arrived at the Star Tribune in time for the 1998 season, and after they had I think they lost like 90-something games with like Mike Morgan, Bob Tewksbury, and Greg Swindell and all those guys. Carl Paul, I was like, look, if I'm going to lose 90-something games, I might as well do it with a cheaper roster. And they got at the roster. So the one case that the Twins could go by is their own. Because they did this back after 1998, and they played 18 rookies in 1999, and then played another 18 rookies in 2000. And as it turned out, the fallout from that helped build the Twins teams in the 2000s that were pretty talented. Torrey Hunter and Jock Jones and Corey Koski and all those guys, getting experience and becoming, good players. So they've done it before. And so in theory, they shouldn't be afraid of doing it again since they're used to doing it. And maybe they'll have the same effect. It'll be 2 or 3 years down the road when they get better. But why? Who are you fooling? You're not going to win next year. You're not. You're probably going to finish last in the division. If they're kidding themselves if they think that they're in a position to have a quick turnaround and compete again, because all these players develop at different levels. Some guys have may fail right away. Other guys are going to fail for a while. And then, you're going to need some of these guys that need to get their brains beat in, and meanwhile, while they're doing that, you're going to be losing games, so don't think that you can outsmart everyone and think that you could just, we're going to reload with younger players and watch all these guys come together at once. It doesn't happen in baseball. So once you start taking these steps and trading the 11 people they did at the trade deadline, why stop now? See what you get for Ryan, see what you get for Lopez, and see where Buxton wants to go and try to make something happen. Because, they're not going to raise the payroll next year. We already know that. So they're not going to try to add any present talent. They're going to go with what they got. They're going to go with the young players. They're going to go in-house. I would guess most of their solutions are going to be in-house. So, just put everybody out of the misery and go ahead and trade those 3 guys and then start from scratch and build up.
Are they prepared to deal with the attendance fallout that would then follow? That would be, I think, even worse than most of us are predicting it's going to be right now. Then the bottom is completely out of it, don't you think?
Well, I'm sure they're seeing that now. I'm sure the season ticket renewals are not coming in at a fantastic rate like they have in recent years. And they're also probably going to see it in terms of group sales. The fans who, groups of 20, 30, 50, or 100 that come in from throughout Twins territory, the Dakotas and Iowa and western Wisconsin and watch these games are probably not going to get a lot of advanced group sales that way either. So I'm sure they're already seeing what's going on here. And the big, and of course the big one is what's going to happen after 2026 and the CBA runs out. Will there be a work stoppage there? And that's my conspiracy theory, is that they're looking at that too as a reason to slash payroll, so they don't have to get stuck with a bigger payroll when there's going to be a work stoppage.
Let's talk some football as well. Your favorite team, the Bears, are in Green Bay for a game that got moved, I think, to 325 for all
Correct.
The obvious reasons. It's basically the winners in first place, I think, in the division. So before we get to Vikings, let's talk a little bit about Bears-Packers, because you could say everybody assumed they were going to start imploding with the Black Friday game against the Eagles in Philly, and they obviously performed quite admirably there, especially on the ground, and took care of business. So what do you expect against Green Bay here? I mean, do you think this team, it is time that this team be given some credit given that win on the road, or are you still skeptical?
Did you guys use the Bears-Packers game as a pick-em game this week with Carl?
We did.
Did anyone take the Bears?
Gaardsy and I both did. We both took them to cover, yeah. I think it's 6, right? 6.5?
6.5 is what we went with.
Carl said it's going to be destruction, right? He just called for flat out.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That's after he called Paul Allen fat.
Really?
Yeah, just out of nowhere. just a cruel salvo. And PA must have heard about it because he responded with Merry Christmas, Carl.
Yeah.
Tried to rise above it. Yeah.
This reminds me, before I answer your question, you guys should play the Carl Gershman Christmas Carol that he sung years ago. I found it. Someone led me to it. It's on YouTube. I listened to it. And it's back during the Dante Culpepper days.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while, man. Maybe we should bring that out of mothballs. Okay. We'll take that under consideration.
It was rather... It explains a lot about Carl. Thank you for Minnesota sports. The things he said during the happiest time of the year was just disgusting. Anyway, even Sinekin admitted to me that he thought the Bears win over Philadelphia was eye opening. To go into their stadium in front of those fans and pretty much run the ball at will, run it down their throat. 2 running backs were over 100 yards rushing, and do enough defensively to fluster Hurts and slow down that offense. I thought that was the signature win that they hadn't had all year. So a good running game travels well. And I think you're going to see that against the Packers on Sunday at Lambeau Field. I am concerned about Roma Duze is out with a foot injury. He's not going to play. Tariq Stevenson's out with a hip, but TJ Edwards, the linebacker, who's really vital to our run-stopping defense, will be activated and healthy for the game. So some guys out, some guys in. I like the Bears' chances of. I would take the Bears in the points. I don't know if they're going to win, but I think if they lose, they'll lose by a close margin because the Packers are a talented team, and as much as I'm skeptical of Jordan Love, he can make some plays. Josh Jacobs is a good running back, and the Bears' run defense, has been leaky at times against good running backs. This will be a test to see if they can slow them down on the ground. That will give them a shot in this game. What I was trying to explain to Sinekin too is that he kept chirping about the Bears, the number of yardage they've allowed, and I was like, yeah, but you have to look at the third down defense and look at the defense in the red zone. Then that's when they tightened up. And Dennis Allen, I thought has worked wonders with what he's had because he's had guys that have missed most of the season. Jalen Johnson's only played like in 2-3 games this year.
Correct.
And so I think Allen's done a great job. They've had to play nickel like the entire game because their linebackers are out. It's been a challenge for them, but they've been functional. So I think with the running game, with an offensive line that's ranked among the top in the league, I think they're going to keep this game close and not get blown out. And I think the secondary is as healthy as it's been. It's relatively healthy this week. I think that's going to matter as well. So I still think the Packers are going to win a close one, but the Bears are going to give them a game. And I can't wait to see them in 2 weeks from now back at Soldier Field for the rematch.
Are you going to that? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm not. I wish I could. I wish I could, but no.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually feeling slightly morose listening to you lay out, I think quite eloquently, the matchup because we're in the Twin Cities, right? Minneapolis, St. Paul, and it doesn't feel right when the Vikings are irrelevant to any of these discussions regarding the division or regarding the playoffs with 5 games to go. You know what I'm saying? If you get to like the last 1 or 2, okay, well, but we still got a month and change to go. And now it's all consolation prizes. It's all trying to find out about JJ. It's not a good feeling, right? Because football is such a powerful engine in any metropolitan town that has a team, but certainly here. And right now it's just sputtering along. And it's like, well, we got to find other things to get excited about, whether JJ can answer the bell and he can get a little bit better and we can do a couple other things and cut down
We've got
turnovers.
The perfect guy to ask, though. And you guys both, you're Bears fans. You should be able to guide us through this.
Well,
you've done this for the last decade, so what's the key?
Well, I was going to say, welcome to my world on that one, because this is like only the second time since 1965 that the Bears and Packers are meeting in which both teams are like more than 4 games over 500 in December. I mean, it's ridiculous that the Bears are usually out of it by this time, and then all the moroseness you're talking about. I have lived on an annual basis. I've gone through on an annual basis here in the last 15 years or so, except the 2018, the Matt Nagy team that got double digits out of the postseason.
Yeah.
But it's a crummy feeling because it's not when your football team is doing well. It's nothing that energizes a city like a winning football team, And so to be on the opposite end of that and knowing that by Thanksgiving you're cooked, your goose is cooked. It's a demoralizing feeling, and it's been like that.
It's more. Here's the other thing I think that makes it crueler here than there. I feel like we're used to at least being in the mix, and as a result, I think it's harder for us to accept it. And I feel like under Zimmer, at least, wasn't it a lot of every other year kind of a thing? And has it been every other year or every 1 out of every 3 years have been down under a KOC? I don't even know, but that's part of I think what makes it harder is. We're not either thing long enough to where we can, I think necessarily be comfortable, but then it kind of keeps reverting somehow, whether it's we lose the close games we were winning before or injuries, whatever the case may be. And, for so long, going all the way back even post Herschel Walker trade, the team tended to be in the mix, most of the time. They didn't win Super Bowls, obviously. They didn't even win Often didn't win, heavily into the playoffs, but they seem to be a factor. And now we're one of those teams that are just playing out the string with a month and change to go.
Well, I said, we could compare the degrees of torture that the fan bases have been through.
Yeah.
The Vikings fans it's been a little more dramatic because when you guys have had good years, they've gone haywire. Like the wide right, Gary Anderson missing a field goal, 41 donut, the Brett Favre game against the Saints. There's been reasons to have your hearts ripped out. The Bears fans have been suffering through death by 1,000 cuts. The cuts start coming in the end of September, go through October, and then, like I said, by Thanksgiving, we're trying to look ahead to spring training for baseball. So it's for baseball solace. But yeah, so I think I can tell Vikings fans is this: just focus on J.J. McCarthy getting some experience, and just imagine what better days are going to look like. Also, get ready to. I wrote about this for Sunday too. In my 3-2 pitch, I brought up the 4-letter word that you'll never hear players or front offices talk about, but it'll be in the back of their minds, and that's the 4-letter word is tank.
Right.
So you can imagine what the offseason is going to be like when the Vikings are going to have 10 draft picks. They're going to get compensation picks from Darnold and Daniel Jones, and they're going to have 10 picks to play. What can they do with those picks? How can they restock this roster? Do you trust Kwesi to do it? These are the things you have to use to think that the future is going to be better than the present. Trust me, I've been through it a lot.
Is it? There's no question about that. And that's what I think makes it hurt weirdly more here, because you've had time to get accustomed to it in a way that, a year ago they're sitting at 14-3, and we're thinking going into that last regular season game, we might be as good as anybody. We can even control home ice advantage. So on the QB, what do we need to see? What do you need to see the rest of the way, the last 5 games?
Well, let's start with a first down, and then we'll start with a second first down, and let's graduate to getting the ball on the opponent's side of the field, and also carrying the ball over the goal line, which in the sport it's called a touchdown. Okay, because we haven't seen that in 2 weeks. So let's just start stacking good positive plays. Let's getting everybody up to the line of scrimmage, getting the play call, getting the protection right, and start moving chains and matriculating the ball down the field, and then getting an end zone a couple of times. And then after maybe you do it a couple of times, you start to remember the feeling, and it becomes more of a habit. Because it's rock bottom right now with this offense. And they've got to start building some momentum. It's got to be step by step. It's got to be inch by inch. It's about all 11 players on that field, not just the quarterback, trying to hold their block for 1 second longer or trying to push a guy one more extra yard to get another yard. And when 11 people do that at once, you can build momentum. And they got to start, and JJ's got to be the maestro. I would like to see Bros another game. I just think sending him to Seattle in that situation was an impossible task. But in the end, it's all about getting JJ straight. And we got to get JJ straight over these last 5 games.
Interesting text just came in. This is from Scott in Duluth. The Bears won a Super Bowl in '85. They have zero clue how Vikings fans feel. Well, I mean, if you want to take the longer view, that's true. I mean, the Bears post '85. Obviously, have not been particularly distinguished. Vikings have been more relevant, but he's got a point. They did win the Super Bowl, and Gaardsy's Vikings haven't been there in a long, long time.
That is 40 years ago. That's more than a generation ago. Yeah. So a lot of people aren't around
but it happened.
who were able to experience that. That was my sophomore year in college. I remember having the Super Bowl party at my apartment in the campus of the University of Illinois in Champaign. And I remember a food fight broke out in the living room during the third quarter because the Bears were blowing out the Patriots. No one was paying attention to the game. Some guy said something goofy to one of my female friends. She hit him over hit her in the head with a bag of popcorn. It exploded, and then it was on. Snacks being thrown up against the wall, stuff being tossed.
It's like a Gerbs Thanksgiving.
Cushions being used for protection, and I had to clean up the disaster zone afterwards. But I was happy because we had won the Super Bowl. Yeah, so I do remember that, and that's right. I also have been where the Vikings have been because in '06 the Bears went to the Super Bowl and lost to Tony Dungy, Peyton Manning, and the Indianapolis Colts.
I was with you, Lavelle, at Allery's that night, Prince halftime show, and I've never even gotten that as a Vikings fan that night.
Oh, that's true. That's truth.
You, me, shrink wrap guy, Big Al, the whole bit. We had a hell of a time, and I just left being sad that I may never experience just that.
And they scored the first 7 of the game, right? The Devin Hester.
Yeah, they ran the opening kickback.
Yeah.
The place was electric.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were there for one of the loudest moments in the history of Allery's when Devin Hester returned that kick and everybody exploded, and the waitresses were running around with their hands over their ears because it was too loud for them, and I was messing up shrink wrap guys' normally perfect hair.
Perfect hair. Yeah.
It went down the hill after that. If you remember that game, too, actually, Manning threw an interception on their next possession. The Bears had the ball up 7-0 in that game before everything went 6th and 7th.
And so, then it went pretty bad.
Yep. Yep. Now you're covering St. Paul Saints baseball, and my neck hurt this morning just because I slept wrong. This is where our lives are.
A long way from here to there,
19, 20 years later.
Yeah, boy, it's crazy how things change, man. You have to enjoy the great moments when you're in them.
That's right.
Do me a favor, when you go back into the pavilion, say hi to Mr. Maturi for me. And
if I see him, I will. Right now, Phil Eston, the St. Thomas athletic director, is standing right behind us where we're sitting at. So he's in the middle of all this noise and all this racket as well.
I understand.
Dave Dorson's here. I guess his daughters are going to go play volleyball for St. Thomas next year. So Dave Dorson, the Gopher basketball assistant coach, is in the audience as well.
St. Thomas rules everything. We know that. The whole world revolves around St. Thomas and their alums and their power brokers and their influence peddlers, the whole bit. I'm learning. Sooner or later, I'll figure it out.
Has anyone ever donated $75 million to the Gopher athletic department?
That's a good question. That's a very good point. You're right. Why can't we find our guys to do it? That's the question. Because we got people with the dough, right? Although St. Thomas is probably more money, right?
Yeah,
more specialized.
And the Anderson family's been outstanding for
generous.
The
You think?
Lee and Penny
generous.
Very generous.
How many things they have named after them?
Like the whole campus. And the new arena.
Might they consider renaming the university itself St. Thomas if they continue to?
They probably could.
They probably could.
They could probably pull that off if they wanted.
Has any university ever been renamed after a series of contributions that became so extraordinary that they said, let's just stop. We're going to rename the university after you.
What was Oral Roberts named after at the beginning?
It's funny. That was one I was thinking of too, Gaardsy.
Yeah. Johns Hopkins? Who was Johns Hopkins?
It was always named that, I think.
Yeah, I know it was.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of actual names.
Yeah, Johns Hopkins. I don't know who was Johns Hopkins. I don't even know who that is.
I'm not sure either.
Did Brigham Young found Brigham Young University, or was it something else before he got on?
I think he founded it. I think that's right. That's very true.
Okay.
All right, we got to go. Thank you. Have fun.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Lavelle Neal III. We got a half hour to go, and a story that has escaped our attention this week from the A section that is regional in nature, I think is worth a minute or two. It's an extraordinary story that started in tragedy, fire-related, and now we have, I guess, a significant update in that story, and some very sobering developments. We'll try to get to that, and who knows what else as we wrap up the program in the next 30 minutes. Perhaps a couple final thoughts about the Vikings weekend hosting the Washington Commanders. But before we do that, I assume, Gaardsy, you saw the update in the Lutzen Resort arson case.
Yep.
And I was about to call it stunning, but the feeling I'm getting now, based on what I'm reading, is that it, to a lot of people, especially in or around that area, it's not stunning at all, that it was almost an expected result. Arson charges filed this week against the owner of Lutzen Resort. And, in fact, I'm looking at a quote. This is from one of the Star Tribune stories out of Duluth. What I and thousands of other people already knew was confirmed, according to Alex Hilterbrand, a former employee of the resort. We just knew. Bryce Campbell in a jail near Detroit on Friday, awaiting extradition to Minnesota, facing 3 counts of arson and 1 count of insurance fraud related to the Feb 6, 2024 fire that took 3 days to extinguish. The State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension saying yesterday that Campbell, quote, knowingly caused the fire to fraudulently collect an insurance payout. The resort bills itself as the state's oldest, in operation for almost 140 years. In fact, the lodge that burned was built in 1952 after fire destroyed two previous iterations as well. Still unclear how the fire started. The state fire marshal said charges allege accelerants were involved, and the Campbell had researched accelerants online. He is I think Bryce Campbell is a Canadian citizen, 41 years old, and he bought the resort in 2018 for $6.7 million. He also owned a number of other spots. Copper River Inn in Ontario has since sold that property as well. Now, at the time, there were a lot of very strong denial quotes from Campbell, right, after the fire. He had just invested, apparently, millions of dollars in improvements to the lodge. So he wrote, so you don't bleeping torch a place and burn up $5 million of your money. Let's use some common sense here, people. The resort general manager, Edward Venegas, who watched the historic building burn, said he isn't sure Campbell started the fire. Campbell had himself hired a private forensic fire investigator, he said, and while authorities are citing opportunity and motive, he said they haven't found proof, and he pointed out inconsistencies in the complaint. So, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, I assume. Vanegas bought the potential accelerant Switzmar cited in court papers for their fondue dinners, he said, adding that a huge box of it was in his office and could have fallen near the boilers as floors caved during the fire. The problem, again, among the problems with that is that I believe the authorities say they have all these searches that were done about how to start a fire, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Which wouldn't seem to mesh with what resort general manager guy is saying in this particular piece. In addition, the resort's insurance policy was increased, but he says it's because of extensive renovations at the lodge, adding that third floor of rooms. Joe Fredericks, a Cook County-based journalist who's met with Campbell and exchanged messages for months, described him as an imposing figure at about 6'4", 250, who constantly drinks diet soda. With me, he was pretty mild-mannered and calm and would kind of present himself as an aloof, clumsy entrepreneur with an innocence I wouldn't hurt a fly kind of thing, end quote. But he's also known as a tough person to work with, the reporter added. Now, I also thought I'd read somewhere else that he had some significant financial issues involving a debt elsewhere, if I'm not mistaken, and that was part of the trail that was followed here regarding what might have been his impetus to do what he is accused of doing. But obviously, as I said, he will have his day in court.
He also owned the Superior Shores Resort just outside of Two Harbors.
Okay.
If you're going up on your way to Lutsen, it's right there on the right on 61. And yeah, the money was not, he was having significant money problems. Like business accounts that have been, basically down to nothing or below zero, not able to make payroll, like things like that. I think that was in the same Star Trib story that you were reading from, maybe a little bit further down.
Correct.
Yeah, it checks all the boxes for all of that stuff. It checks all the boxes for...
The criminal complaint suggests debt of more than $14 million totally, and that's obviously a very, very large debt. So I'll be curious to see how this goes. If he's going to... based on what I'm reading, it sounds like he might plead not guilty. We'll have to see. Court scheduling will be determined after he's back in the state. And I think he either turned himself in or was arrested without incident wherever he was. What did I say? Was it Detroit? No, somewhere in Michigan. Let's see where he's located. Yeah, he's in a jail near Detroit, at least as of earlier today. That fire took place Feb 6 of 2024. And it's one of those places, right? For a lot of people, very historic.
For sure.
Great memories for lots of folks. And it was a massive conflagration at the time, right? As we said, I think it took 3 days to be put out.
Well, think about a place that could have burned down twice previous to 1952, and still be considered historic. I'm not saying that sentence right, but that's how long there'd been a lodge in this spot, right? Forever and ever and ever. And now the oldest one, or the newest one, was 1950s, and he had done some renovations on it and all of those things. So think about all the memories and families and just having that be there forever and ever and ever, and then having this happen.
There were also, I know I read somewhere in here some quotes between he and his husband, I believe, talking about burn it down. Weren't there quotes to that effect? Did I miss that? Did I? I don't think I'm making that up.
I didn't see that.
We'll double check it. There was another story that I read, or at least there was some indication of conversations that led one to believe that there might have been a plan here. There might have been something planned here, an orchestrated attempt. I'll try to find it here before the program is wrapped up. I got a couple of good odes to the legendary guitarist Steve Cropper, who we owed earlier in the show as well, and maybe even a couple final thoughts on Vikings hosting the Washington Commanders. All of that is coming up next.
Show wrap presented by American Pressure, commercial grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Yeah, looking at one of the stories regarding the Lutzen fire, and there were apparently, according to authorities, a series of Facebook messages between Campbell and his husband in which they discussed the financial difficulties of the resort and write "burn it" about the resort in a message. About the resort. In a message after the fire, Campbell referred to saying "burn it" as a joke as well. So there's a lot on this story that is yet to come, but it's a pretty. Again, I don't know if it's astonishing, the end, given that apparently for a lot of people, they felt all along that it was likely that that's what took place here, which is not the same thing as someone being charged. So that's where we're at the story now. Dan, do you give the Hoosiers a fighting chance? Your Hoosiers a fighting chance tomorrow versus Ohio State? I do. I don't know if I'm ready to pick them. Maybe I'm still too much in that mode of, well, they're Ohio State and we're Indiana. It's been a great story, and they're legit, but that's still maybe the best team in football, the really good defense. But I do think, I do expect it to be, I'll be surprised if it's not a close game. Indiana's in that mode still a year after the scar tissue from their finish where they got pretty much manhandled in the two great opponents they played, Ohio State and Notre Dame, that they need it to be a ball game. The last thing they need, obviously, is to go there and to lose by 28 points, something like that. But I do think they have a chance in the game. Paul from Fridley caught your ode to guitar legend Steve Cropper. Had the pleasure of meeting him in the cities in the late 90s and getting his autograph on my guitar strap. He was here as part of an all-star band to play for a large gathering of Northwest Airlines, now Delta, employees who were honored for their 25-plus years of employment. I supported the event as a company intern. It sounds like quite an event.
Corporate events as an intern were always fun.
They were, actually, were they not?
Well, just because everything seemed possible.
That's very true.
This is free. Drinks, the food.
Right,
my boss is acting like that.
He also, I mentioned this earlier, on the dock of the bay, sitting on the dock of the bay, a terrific Otis Redding song in which I think Cropper actually wrote a decent amount of it and played on it as well, is another example of a song where you might not know he was on it, might not have been aware of that, but you're sure as hell, if you're old enough at least, aware of the brilliance of that particular tune and the instrument work on it as well. So, gone but not forgotten. I think, and it sounds like he had a bad fall. Some kind of incident because allegedly somebody was quoted as saying, he's about to do some more work, we're going to get him back in the studio, whatever. So I don't know if there was some kind of complication from the fall or something else more sudden that we don't know. He was in his 80s. I want to say 84, might have been even older than that. You took the Vikings to win. I did as well.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I got embarrassed last week picking them to at least cover. and that wasn't even close.
I blame myself for that, selling you on Brosmer a little bit too hard, maybe.
That might be it. Well, the national media was on him.
Yeah.
We talked about that on Sunday. Florio was basically saying, well, this might be the guy.
I think he still might be.
And maybe he will be someday. Yeah. But allegedly, it's not as insane to pick them at home against a 3-9 team, right? Even though they're getting their quarterback back, and a year ago they were a damn good club. So it is, if not now, when, on a number of fronts, not the least of which, as we talked about much earlier in the show, our next three opponents are three of the five worst, statistically speaking, defensive teams in all of football. And you got to believe that if you don't get some progress from JJ through these three games, maybe there is even greater concern at TCO Performance Center among the folks who swear by him and believe that it's just a matter of time before he becomes one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of Minnesota Vikings football. That's not flexed, right? That's a noon game?
Yeah, it's noon.
But we said we have a national game still.
Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys next week, December 14th.
Ooh, that's there, right?
Yeah.
That could get ugly.
Yeah. And then I forgot about Netflix on Christmas against the Lions. Gessling reminded us of that one.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah.
I forgot that too.
Yep, Thursday, December 25th.
See, that's so sad, and none of this is fun.
No.
At this point, you're like, oh, really? Big deal. I don't want to. Do I have to watch it?
Right.
This
technically we really don't. We don't have a show for a few days after.
It's stuff you're supposed to be looking forward to, but
we don't have a Vikings regular guest anymore. He got traded. Do you see the Levi Drake Rodriguez?
Yeah, somebody
we didn't even
brought
talk
that to our
about it.
attention.
I should have brought it up. He's on the show with you, and he's out.
He's out. Yeah. Isn't it a neck injury with him?
Yeah.
Sort of like yours?
Maybe it's like mine.
I don't know.
I have sympathy pain.
He comes on our show for the first time because Metellus was afraid to, because everybody else who comes on the show ends up getting cut or not returning to the club or getting fired. And so the substitute comes on, and now he's not available to play. Yeah, it's a little bit scary. We're not going to get any regulars on any longer, I don't think. And yes, I know some of you out there want us to get J.J. McCarthy on as a regular.
We're not going to do that.
We're well aware that's what you're saying. I know what you're saying there. We've played that game before. We've been there before. Larry Mandela guy had a really good cheap shot at you, and now I can't find it. Ah, dang it. Where was it?
There'll be another one next week.
Larry Mandela guy. How much? Oh, here it is. I think if you replaced Fairfield with Normandale, all the schools at the volleyball regional at the U are Gaardsy alma maters.
Pretty close.
And not bad.
Pretty close.
Great weekend. Sermons, 1 hour edition, will begin at 9 o'clock. We'll talk to you Sunday morning.
Thank you for the memories. Thank you for the great time. We love you, Dan.